You are listening to Larry Conners, USA.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Conners USA. Larry Conners USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Many Democrats like to pretend their open border policies are somehow humane. There is nothing humane about what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing at the border. They're subjecting kids to horrific abuse. They're endangering their lives in a pandemic by keeping them locked up in cages right on top of each other. And then they're releasing illegal aliens into the United States who are testing positive for COVID at a rate 7 times higher than the U.S. population. This is a humanitarian crisis, it is a health crisis, and it's a national security crisis.
March 29, 2021, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Yes, what we have at the border does also qualify as a national security crisis. You have to keep that in mind. It's already been acknowledged that we have had many come across the border, or being caught anyway, that are not from Central America, the Northern Triangle. They're not from Mexico. They're not even from Cuba. They are from China or places in the Middle East. If you were a terrorist trying to get into our nation, and you know you cannot board a plane and come to New York or L.A. or Dallas, that you'd be spotted, what do you think would be the best and easiest way to get into this country? You can't go to Canada and try to come in illegally because, first of all, you got to be accepted in Canada. But if you can get your way to Central America or Mexico, blend in with one of the caravans, you got a chance of getting into the U.S. Now, how many terrorist cells do you think might be in place as I speak in the U.S.? And more will be coming. And then we have the issue with these kids. We have thousands of kids. They cannot find enough facilities for them. Senator Ted Cruz went down with some other senators and documented what they saw. They were not allowed to take a news crew. They did have one with them, but the Border Patrol and ICE, whoever was in charge at that particular point, said they're not allowed inside. They are traveling with a U.S. senator, and they said you cannot allow them to get pictures. So the senators took their own pictures, although there were instances where they were pushed back and told, don't take pictures. We're going to get into all of that. And this point about how many are coming across with COVID, the numbers out of Mexico now should frighten you. Mexico revising its coronavirus death toll up by 60%, a 60% increase. Mexico now is the second most deaths globally, something like 300+ thousand deaths. So do you have any doubt that anyone coming through Mexico might be subjected or carrying COVID? If there's an outbreak in Texas under a Republican governor, or in Florida, where both are Republican governors and both took off the mask mandates, watch the left blame it on mask mandate lifting, not illegals. We're going to get into that. H.R. 1, we talked about before, it's an effort to federalize elections. We're going to look at that and the Georgia election law. There's so much complaints and confusion over it. If you hear the Georgia law will not allow folks to have food or drink in line because it's a way to make those who are poor or are suffering, they can't stand in line, put them, that you're not going to be able to give them food or drink, that's kind of a lie. I'll break it down for you. Senator Lindsey Graham says if you are a white Republican, you're automatically going to be labeled racist now. If you're a black Republican, you're going to be labeled a token, a pawn, an Uncle Tom for conservatives, for whites. We're going to get into that. And John LaBoutiere from New York would join us, former U.S. Congressman, always candid. And this story. In Vancouver, a Canadian father fighting to keep his daughter, age 14, from getting testosterone injections so she could become a boy. The judge ruled that if the father even referenced his child as a girl or with female pronouns, she, he would be guilty of family violence. Jeremiah J. Keenan is a pro-life activist who did an article on this case for The Federalist, and I'm going to have him joining me in this first hour. This is a story that it should send shockwaves through the entire world. of anyone concerned about protecting children. But, of course, you never can tell with some on the left if they're really concerned about protecting children or advancing progressive rights at the expense of children. And we're also going to look at some of the latest concerns about COVID in this nation. And I have a personal story I'm going to relate. And some who know this story have already asked me, Larry, is this changing your position on getting a vaccination? This is a story that hits very close to home for me. I'll give you details of that story and also tell you how it does or does not change my view. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You can email Larry at LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com. LarryConnersUSA@gmail.com.